Hi, this is just a very short training session to introduce you to the currency calculator and the £1,000,000 message. These systems, when placed together, actually create a really strong mechanism to create messaging and content that will really resonate with your audience type. So, without further ado, I shall share this. So this is the currency calculator, and what this is, it's the first part of the model, and it allows you to define a perception of value against your product or service. So if you think back to a few hundred years ago, before money was the kind of common currency, people used to go to the market and trade goods. So they would trade a loaf of bread for I don't know, a piece of meat or something like that. And the currency was the actual object or the emotional driver, or what somebody wanted to swap for something else, basically. So what we're doing is adopting similar concepts. So rather than having monetary value as the kind of currency of exchange, it's based around the emotional driver that the individual is trying to achieve based on their goals. So what tends to happen is when somebody's advertising their product or service, they tend to categorize themselves, or it tends to be a category that they talk about, because not always there's not a kind of clear understanding of what the value or what the perceived value is of the product or service that's being sold. So in the instance on the screen, it talks about the category being a personal trainer. So that's somebody going out and wanting to get fit, and they look for a personal trainer, when in actuality what they're actually trying to achieve is something related to the personal trainer. And what I mean by that is the core motivational driver is the need to lose weight, in this instance as the example. So I might be, let's take an avatar. So let's say I'm John, I'm 45. I want to lose weight. How do I lose weight? I go and find a personal trainer. So the personal trainer is the mechanism, but the core driver in the core emotional driver that would resonate with me would be the achievement of my goal. So in this case, weight loss. Now, if we apply an actual measurement, a metric, and a timeline to the core currency, then all of a sudden it becomes a very strong, engaging message. So in this instance, if we took weight loss as the example, so we would help you. I'm a personal trainer, for instance, so my messaging would be, I help men over 45 lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks. So the currency is the weight loss. The £10 is obviously the metric, and then within the 2 weeks is the timeline. So what that really then does is give you a tangible, measurable message, basically, that you can resonate with, and you know what you're buying, basically. So you're not buying a personal trainer and then with it being ambiguous, you're getting a very specific outcome based on what you want to do in your emotional drivers. Now, what the core currency calculator does is it just prompts you to basically do a little bit of exploration, really, and a bit of a brain dump in terms of all the different things that your product or service could increase or what it could decrease, and then apply a metric and a measurement against a specific timeline against each one. Now, what you tend to find is within the kind of marketing world, if your business is kind of B2B, or sorry, your audience is B2B, then they try and generally move towards something. So they're kind of moving towards gaining. So they're gaining revenue, they're gaining customers, they're gaining clients. Whereas if it's a B2C audience, they tend to be kind of moving away from pain a lot. So it's more lose weight or reduce stress or reduce anxiety. They tend to be moving away from a pain. So within the messaging, it's just something to bear in mind when we're looking at identifying what your product increases and what it decreases. And you will likely have you'll have features on each side. So you may increase energy, reduce body fat. So what we want to do is really just brainstorm and get as many attributes down as we can across the increase and decrease, and then apply the kind of metric to it and the timeline based on what's achievable. This then will give us a range of different features that we can work with in our messaging. And these will feed into the kind of product roadmap further down the line. But for the initial instance in the first place, it's getting all these down to begin with and then choosing one core currency. So the core currency is basically the one main objective value that you can apply against your product or service. I say in this case it's weight loss because that's the most defining factor. But it could be one of other things. It could be generating revenue, as I say, if it's B2B, or generating new clients or leads, or it's based around what there's an additional matrix actually that I've not got here, which talks about how hot a specific currency is. So what is the kind of core heat? It's kind of done like hot and cold. So what is a hot currency? What is something that people really look for and really try to achieve as an outcome, really? And that kind of, as I say, the kind of emotional driver that fits with it. So once you've chosen your core currency, we can start to look at the £1 million message, as this feeds, as you can see there, directly into this messaging. So what is it and why is it important? So this is basically a formula for ensuring that any messaging that you have in terms of the core driving message of your product or service, it includes all the key elements that, again, will emotionally resonate with an end user in terms of their ability to achieve their goals or their outcomes. And it really just gives that tangible element, tangible, measurable element that people are looking for, really, and that they can adapt to. Obviously, it needs to be believable. It needs to be easily understandable in terms of the kind of text. And this is like a really clear kind of copywriting formula. Obviously, you can get cleverer with it in terms of the terminology you use and the slight structure, but the idea is to have these key features within your message that will, as I say, resonate with the audience. So you've got SA times currency plus metric timeline plus the desired outcome minus friction equals £1 million message. So SA is the specific avatar. So John, who's 45, the currency. So that would be the core currency we talked about earlier. So say John, 45, wants to lose £10, which would obviously the £10 would be the metric, over 2 weeks, so they can run 10 miles, or so they can fit in his jeans, for instance, without cutting out the weekend treats or without cutting things that you like to eat every day. So what you're doing is basically you're giving people what they want and taking away more of what they don't want, basically, and that's what kind of resonates with people. So the example we've got here is we help service-based business owners double their revenue in 90 days so they can scale past 6 figures without having to learn complex tech or digital marketing skills. So as you can see, you've got a very clear avatar. You've then got your metric and your timeline, in this case, revenue being the core currency. The 90 days obviously is the timeline. Then the desired outcome is they want to scale past 6 figures without having to learn complex tech or digital marketing skills. So you're removing the friction, and it could be one of many things. But this is why with £1 million message, what you tend to do is write 5 or 6 different versions out, and then ultimately you come to the conclusion in one after you've been through them. You kind of tweak them, and it's something that you tend to come back with and tweak as time goes on, as you go throughout this process, and you become more kind of educated in the kind of approach and the concepts and methodologies that kind of sit behind everything. Then you do tend to have a kind of aha moments and then come back and tweak the overall messaging. So this message will be at the kind of top level, so it'll talk for your complete products or service. But then as we break down the products and service into the individual roadmap and the different elements, the stages, the steps and the actions, you would have a £1 million message for each one of those. And there's a reason for that, which I'll kind of talk through at a later stage. But the idea of it is it's going to feed your content, and it's going to feed the content engine that we build on the back of it. So that is the two core concepts. So it's defining your core currency, and then it's feeding that into your £1 million message, which then will kind of feed, as I say, the rest of your content ongoing. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If you do have any questions, then obviously please feel free to ask. But that is literally the currency and the £1 million message. If we create, say, if we obviously fill in the currency calculator and then create between 5 and 10 different versions of the £1 million message, then we can review them, go through them, and then kind of talk through them in the next session. Okay, thank you.